Hi there. So I want to talk about something that comes up a lot in IRB meetings when you're going to approve a protocol in a contingent way or requiring additional things to be followed up on before you get a final approval. What's interesting is that I think many people slip into a mode where you're actually willing to allow things to go forward that you really should probably defer. There seems to be this voodoo that deferral is somehow bad. It comes from some sort of posture that if you're deferring, you're inconveniencing some researcher or some PI, and if you're an academic center, sometimes you're worried about reprisal or somebody getting annoyed, or you just don't want to burden the staff with additional work. I don't think that's a good idea, and I think that in the regulatory side of the world, we have a requirement to not do things that go beyond a certain line. That line gets a little blurry, and I think it's important to use a couple of, sort of tips and ways of thinking about it. My favorite, and it's the one I want to focus on today, came from Duke University in the early 2000s or late 90s. I'm not sure when it began or when it started, but we called it the ation list. And when I joined the board there as a graduate student, one of the board chairs that I worked a lot with was a man by the name of Dr. Joseph Farmer of blessed memory. And Dr. Farmer had his ation list, and he was really good about using it. And somebody who helped him put it together and then turned it into a beautiful poster, and I've taken it from her as a slide with permission, Charlotte Coley, who was one of the directors there and the education director, really kind of carried this forward, and I think it's a useful way for people to think about it. So the ation list includes a bunch of ATION or TION words that if you hit them when you're talking about a requirement for approving a protocol, you should probably consider just deferring it instead. This comes down to degree of requirement. So if you can specify something in writing of exactly what's needed and send it back to them and say, do you agree? And they agree, you can go forward. But if you go beyond to the sort of questioning, to the ATION, the action required, and the action is beyond the specified and specifiable action of the board at the time, you're in deferral land. So these are things that when you have these ation words come up, it should be your threshold question of whether you're getting to a point where you should just defer it instead. I am in favor of deferring things, and that probably makes me the enemy of some people, but I think it allows us to be a little more clear about how we do things and draw the appropriate boundaries. So the first one on the ation list, and actually I'm just going to read you all the ation words in a row, and then we can talk through it if you want, but given that I want to keep these videos kind of short, maybe I'll just do one or two and then leave the rest as a kind of an experiment for you to do on your own. So the ation words include information, clarification, communication, explanation, justification, documentation, modification, authorization, qualification, demonstration, and finally, but not least, I come from a sort of a life science side that's a little more quantifiable, quantification. If you hit these things and it's not an obvious answer that you already have specified what the answer should be, then you are in deferral land. The interesting and easy ones is documentation. If you don't have a document and you need to see that document prior to going forward, you're probably in deferral land. One exception to this is I need to see your IND number. Okay, fine, you know it's specified and you can see it and you know that it's a number. That's the kind of thing that you can do that's not deferrable. But if it's I need to see this report and the analysis from these people from the DSMB to decide whether or not you've done something right or wrong, you're probably close to deferral land. So I think it's important that people kind of pay attention to this, use the ation list. It's a good thing to do. Back in the day, we used to have a large poster printout of it, and it was on the wall in the IRB meetings, and it was kind of a joke thing when somebody would go out of their way and the reviewer would do so much work and just really wanted to get something approved, and we'd kind of hit on it and someone would just sort of smile and point to the poster and be like, you hit an ation word. So that's the ation list. I hope it's useful for people in IRBs. I think it's a relatively durable thing. And if you want, send me a message. I'm happy to send you a document with some explanation of the ation list. Have a good day.